So this is about the unsolved mystery of death in the ranch country. I happened to be in Choteau, Montana, having coffee with some people around a table. And one of them was the ex-sheriff of that area. And he started telling me about these cattle mutilations. And the weirdest, it sounded so far-fetched and weird to me. And I asked him if he would share this story with me about what these are, what happened, and if they're solved, if they know anything about it. This is one of the strangest, oddest things I have ever come across. Well, probably the strangest thing I have ever come across. I think you'll find this very intriguing. Now, I will say beware. This is very graphic conversation. I don't show anything, but it's really graphic. It might be disturbing to some people, so be aware of that. So here's my conversation with Sheriff Pete. What is a mutilation, and what?
Well, and
you talked about the first one that
now
you ever
that
saw?
now that you asked me that, I don't know how it even got its name. Whether we started calling it that or what, I don't remember.
Was this the first place that they
Yes,
had
this
something?
is the first one in the whole area around here of those several counties that we had one right here, and we're only about a mile and a half from it.
Okay. And what was it? I mean, what
That was
happened?
a yearling heifer, black heifer. Yeah, and like I say, what happened was the landowner, I'll show you his house, he walked out of his house, got in his pickup, and the property he owns, there's a little bit on this side of the creek, but a pretty good sized piece on the other side. You have to go around to cross the creek. And that's what he was doing. He was going from his house to get around. So he had seen this particular heifer. He remembered her. They were all standing on the ford, but on the opposite side of the creek, and he remembers seeing this heifer. For some reason he knew her. And I don't know what he did. He was over there for like an hour, and then he goes back to his house, has breakfast, comes out, gets in his pickup, and he's going back around, same place, to do whatever he'd been doing before. And here laid the heifer all by herself at the ford, and the other cattle are all in a bunch, standing back looking at her. And they wouldn't go near her. And that's when he walked up to her, and hey, all of a sudden, here's this dead heifer laying there. And the rectal area had been violated, the skin removed, and the face plate, if you will, from the lower jaw, the tip of the jaw, back here to the back jawbone, up to the ear, that had all been removed, which was usual as we went through these. Then when the vet got out here, he did a necropsy right there in the field and went in internally. I found out that all of the female organs had been removed. There was no blood, there was no vitriol fluid left in the eyeballs, just different things like that. And when he got done with the examination, like I say, I wasn't here, my undersheriff was out here with him and one or two of the deputies. His comment to them was, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." And that was the usual pattern after that. Well, then the word got out that we had experienced this, so when the deputies in Cascade County found out about it, they had a real big interest in it, and that's when Keith had called, Keith Wolverton. He's the one that wrote the book.
Okay.
He wanted to know if he could come up. Oh shoot, I went by the house without showing you that.
That's all right.
We can see it from up here.
So there was more of these then, though, from that point?
Yes, that was the very first one. Nobody had ever, and like I say, I can't tell you right now who decided it was a mutilation instead of something else.
Right.
I don't know how it got that label. I just don't remember.
Oh, so you didn't call it that? It was just...
Well, we may have. I just couldn't tell you.
Okay.
That house right there is the property owner's home.
Down there?
Yes.
Huh. So it was right in here?
No. That's where he lived. So he comes out of the house, comes up here. You have to go up here and cross the creek, and then he went around behind this line. That line of brush follows the Teton River.
Okay.
And the ford across that is right, I think
it's over there.
Might be this open spot right over here. It's a little wider.
Yep.
Right there, or just a little bit above that. Right in here somewhere. So he comes around here, looks at the cattle, does what he does, goes back home, eats breakfast, gets in his pickup, and comes back. And that's when this heifer that he had seen like an hour before, he found her laying there right at the ford crossing of the creek. And so it happened during the day, right during the bright daylight.
And it wasn't very long, apparently.
Yeah.
So where else were they finding these after that? Was it
Well, just scattered areas.
just random?
Yep. And it was more predominant away from the mountains than it was close to the mountains. And I've always suspicioned that because basically a lot of this mountain front is roadless.
Right.
They move the cattle in there, and generally when they move cows around here, they do it horseback.
Right.
So if those cattle were up there and had been moved in on it on horseback, unless they're up there checking fences or salting, putting mineral out, something like that, they don't know what's going on in their own ranch.
Right.
It might be a day or it might be a week or two before they discover something.
Right.
So you come across the creek and up here, and here's the gate goes in.
Okay. And then it was back over there.
This fence line right here is the west boundary. We can see better, get up here, get away from this building.
And you just go down there.
Yeah.
And this is right next to town.
Yep.
So town's right there, right in those trees.
Yeah. So just around the other side of that shed is where the river comes in, the Teton River. Just go around the river, and that's where the ford across the creek was that the cattle were using all the time. And that's where that cow or that heifer was laying.
Man. So
like you say, it's close to town, it's daylight, it's just all kinds of things.
So what did you think it was? I mean, did you have any ideas?
I wasn't here. I remember that. I didn't find it.
The
owner found it. My undersheriff and one or two of the deputies came out. So the veterinarian, the owner, my undersheriff, they looked at it. Nobody knew. And Bob, the vet, Bob Lee, his only comment was, "I've never seen anything like this in my life."
So I mean, then did you see?
It was about 2 weeks later before I got home. I was in school.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I had left town that morning. I was on my way to Bozeman. So when I got down there was a phone call waiting for me. So I talked to my undersheriff, and he said, "The strangest thing happened."
Oh.
Well, I guess I'll deal with that next time I come back, and I did. In the meantime, he said Bob had taken some samples, was going to send them in to do some tests, and thought maybe the tests would be back by the time I came home to see what had gone on. And from there, we just, from one to another, not in rapid succession.
So you did see...
I'm going to guess that I probably looked at 30 to 40 animals, horses and cows, primarily cows, both sexes, more to the female side than the male side. We did one big Hereford bull. We did one smaller black bull that I remember. Otherwise, most of them were adult mother cows or younger heifers. Yeah.
So did you ever find out? I mean, how many years was it that you were finding these? I mean, did it just quit? Or?
Yeah, all from 74 in the first part of 70, not in the winter months. By October, November of 74, it shut down.
Okay.
And nothing during the winter. And I couldn't tell you what the winter was like. I don't even remember.
Right.
Next spring, it started up again. It went until that fall, until freeze up, October, November, something like that. And then it just died out. They were still happening, but very few and really scattered. And in this area, it went from out here on the flats. We did find there was a horse. Can't remember, it was a horse and a mule or two mules up on the mountain front, and that's a ranch that's really hardly anybody goes around there. They put the horses in the pasture up there, and they don't use them very often. They don't see them very often. And it had been, I think he said, like a week to 2 weeks since they had last seen them. They're laying out in the hay meadow, side by side, not touching one another. And every animal we found, there was no depredation from predators. There was no birds. They wouldn't come on. They wouldn't sit on them, which usually happened. You know, magpies, crows. We got all those around here. Lots of birds of raptor. They wouldn't sit on the carcass. They wouldn't have anything to do with it. If you were in an area where they could leave a foot track, like muddy areas, there's no coyotes, there's no other predators, no foxes, nothing. That carcass would lay there untouched. And it seemed like it would deteriorate much, much faster than a natural death. You know, cattle get killed, they die from disease, they die from all different reasons, including lightning strikes. And it takes a while because all the predators come and do. None of that ever went on, but within about 12 to 14 days, sometimes, all you had left was the hide and the bones.
Oh, really?
It deteriorated that fast. The flesh just...
On the inside or something, huh?
Yeah, the flesh was gone.
And it went on for a few years, or?
Well, primarily, like I say, 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. And then it was sporadic, really sporadic. And around the rest of the state of Montana, we weren't hearing anything. We had talked, in the meantime, from 1974 forward to 1976, we talked pretty extensively with a bunch of guys, the law enforcement, sheriff's offices usually, in Nebraska, Pennsylvania. We had another eastern state, I can't remember, it was close to Pennsylvania. It was Connecticut or who, I don't remember. And then we started hearing about them clear down in the southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, and all that. I don't know whether Keith talked to anybody down there or not. I didn't, but Keith might have. And I don't remember that it's reported in his book of him talking to anybody down there. I just don't know.
What's the book called?
That one I'm telling you about, Mystery Stalks the Prairie.
Mystery Stalks the Prairie.
In his book.
Yeah, his book. Yep. His book.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's revealed in there that he talked to those guys in the Southwest, but talking to this, I can't think of her name either again, the psychic that lives back, or she lived back, she's moved, I think she's located in Colorado now. She's pretty well known, and that book she has, and that book is, God, it was new when she mailed me a copy of it.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, so that's probably got 40 to 50 years of history in it now, something like that.
So how long were you a sheriff?
14 years.
You're 14 years.
Yep.
And nobody ever made any discovery as to
Nobody knows
why
any
that was
more
going
about
on,
it today than they did back then. Nope. And we, like I say, we used 5 different veterinarians. We did had some what I'm going to call research. The vets did. Because we couldn't, there was never any blood in them. We couldn't figure out how the hell did they get every drop of blood out.
Right.
And I mean, there was not so much as a drop in the carcass or on the ground. Not a drop. So we talked to them, well, we don't know how the hell that could work. Well, we didn't either. So a couple of them one day, we had some good friends that were really interested in it. So anything we needed from the ranchers, they were willing to help us with.
Sure.
So we had them volunteer, I think it was 3, maybe 4 head of younger cows. And we used the stockyards down on the east side of town. Put them in the squeeze chute down there, and the vets injected them with a chemical called Ketoset. And it was supposed to expedite their heart to where you could get going super fast. And then if they were bleeding, thinking maybe you could extract all of the blood out. Well, they used I'm going to call it a trocart. It's a large needle. Sure, we got them bleeding, as you always would. That was the idea of it. But we could never, ever even get that. The heart would speed up, but not near the speed it would take to take every single drop of blood out of the carcass. Yeah, they just wouldn't do it. And then Sheriff Kersel in Cascade County had a son who worked for the U.S. government at the atomic, there's an atomic site down south of Du Bois, big government research center. It's a secret deal. I don't know what the hell they do down there. He was home for Christmas one year, and he was hearing about it and got interested. So he went down to the sheriff's office one day, and I happened to be sitting there talking with Keith, and he come in. John brought him in, and introduced me to his son. So he sat down. We BS'd with him for an hour or two. And he said, you know, we got some top-grade scientists down there, and we couldn't figure out when they would excise the piece of hide they would take from around the faceplate. You could see sometimes with a naked eye, other times with a
microscope?
Not a microscope.
Magnifying glass?
Magnifying glass. It looked like it had been cut with a pair of shearing scissors that's used for sewing, or the corrugated edges. He said, we don't have any instrumentation to do that, but so they would examine this using those government scopes down there, the really powerful ones. And the report we got back was it appears as though it could have been, they didn't say it might have been, it could have been cut with something as precise as a laser, if in fact not a laser.
Whatever that means.
That was their wording, yeah. But it was so minute, you had to really, really look on some of them, and those are the ones that he took back with him. And they did some samples with the skin, the flesh, and all that kind of thing. We never got anywhere with it. And like I say, to my knowledge, it's still the same today. I've never heard of it being resolved anywhere.
No, that's what's weird, is that so weird, because I have a friend down where I live that has, I was telling you, has had a couple of them, a couple of cows killed that way as well, like up in the mountain and just laying there in the same thing.
Yeah.
And that is so that's, and we're now in, you know, that was probably, for about 2 years he found a few, and that was in, so it was, you know, 3-4 years ago. Well, maybe 5 years ago.
Well, this was happening here in the early 70s. It didn't happen just north of us. 2 years ago, Pend Oreille County, we are joining counties, just like 5 miles across the border of the counties up here, they had, I'm going to say 4 or 5 or 6. I need to make a trip to Conrad one of these days and meet the new sheriff over there and talk to him. He has had several reported to him. I don't know. It's a mystery, for sure.
Totally.
As far-fetched as this sounds, this really happened. And it happens today, right now. Even in 2023 or 22 was the last ones that I've heard of in my area. And they are completely unsolved. Nobody actually has any idea how these are accomplished, who is accomplishing them, and really what's going on at all. So I thought it was intriguing. If you have any ideas, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Also, I was able to ride around with Pete, and because he was a sheriff for many years and also the justice of the peace in Teton County, he has a really unique perspective on what's happening in rural America, because he was involved in a different aspect, several different aspects of that time period. All through his life, he saw the changes in the small towns, from big box stores taking over what the little box stores did, to ranching community, and all kinds of things in between. So I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of get his perspective on that. So I rode around with him for a while and got some of his amazing stories. If you want to watch that, go to my channel, Life in the West, and click on that video of Sheriff Pete. Until next time, I'm Trinity Vandenaker. God bless.